Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast, the podcast where the dogs are the stars of the show. Welcome to episode 38 of the Relaxed Dog Podcast, sponsored by therelaxeddog.com. Thank you very much for listening and finding the show. I am your host, Robert Ober, and I hope that you and your dog are well. I'm going to start off this week by asking a small favour, and that is if you have at some stage enjoyed either one of the previous episodes, or if you enjoy this episode, I'd be very grateful if you could either share it or tell a friend or two. Anyway, this week's guest is Prue Church, all the way from New Zealand. But first, in some doggy news, in Sabonga in the Philippines, a motorcycle rider was a little concerned at a dog that had chased him down and was barking at him. He stopped. The dog turned around and then, seemingly wanting the motorcyclist to follow him, which he did. The dog then led the motorcycle rider to an abandoned newborn baby. So they saved the baby, and a couple of days later they tracked down the dog, which wasn't a stray but belonged to some locals there. His name was Blackie, and it's reported that baby is doing well in hospital and Blackie is now a local hero. And in a somewhat similar story in Ohio in the US, locals were alerted to something going on with a dog barking and chasing after a car leaving the local cemetery. On investigation, they found a little 3-year-old boy and the dog left in the cemetery. Authorities have taken both the child and the dog, and they're doing all right and are continuing investigations. And now this week's interview. Welcome to the Relaxed Dog Podcast. I am here with Prue Church, all the way from New Zealand. How are you?
Good, thanks, Rob. How are you?
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
Who are we going to talk about today?
We're going to talk about my old dog, Sirius. And Sirius she will be 12 in April. And so she's 11 3/4. She's a black Labrador. And we've had Sirius since she's been 7 weeks old.
Wonderful.
So we're going to have tea and bones on the lawn for her 12th birthday, and we'll invite all her dog friends. And there'll be cake and tea for the people and bones for the dogs.
Wonderful. Well, as per usual, I'm going to ask you to take us back in time just before that you got Sirius and tell us the how and why you guys got together.
Okay. We had another dog called Asterix, and Asterix was a black Labrador as well. And when he was 6, we decided that we should have another Labrador. And so we arranged for the same breeder that we got Asterix from to have a female dog. And she was going to be a yellow Labrador. But the day we went to pick her up from the breeder, she suddenly turned black because someone else wanted the yellow one. So we ended up with Sirius. And all the way home in the car, she yelped and she whined and she cried and she barked and she made a real nuisance of herself. And we thought, oh my gosh, what have we got into here? So that's how we came by getting Sirius. And we took her home, and the old 6-year-old Labrador Asterix looked at this pup and she sort of said, well, she's very nice, but when's she going home? When's she going home? And Sirius made Asterix's life a misery. She leapt all over him, she bit him, she did everything. And he just put up with it and said, I know she's going home. She must be going home sometime soon. Anyway, he got used to her and she stayed. And every morning she'd get up and she'd go and jump all over Asterix, and he'd go, oh, get off me. But I think he loved it. So that was the story about Sirius. And then when, we took Sirius to obedience training, and she actually did very well at obedience, and she won some ribbons and that sort of thing. Mm. And then when she was 2, we were living in New Zealand in the middle of the North Island, and we had a friend who had oak trees which he had which had truffle inoculation on the roots. And we were here with Martin, and he said, how am I going to find truffles? You know, I've got these trees that are 4 or 5 years old, and I don't know how to find the truffles. And I said, I'll teach Sirius to find truffles. So we did.
Right. And so have you heard of anyone else doing that at the time?
I must have. I must have, because I just said, look, I'll teach the dog to look for truffles. And so I probably went online and had a look and said, well, how do you find truffles? And I looked up truffle training for dogs and all the rest of it. Everything's available on the internet now. Mm-hmm. So I got hold of some truffle oil, and I started off by I'd put a drop of truffle oil on a piece of makeup remover pad, and I'd put it in front of the dog, and I'd say, find. As soon as she looked at the truffle or the piece of cloth, I'd give her a reward. And so it was just repetition. And then eventually I got hold of some real truffle, and so we started hiding it under a mat, under a cushion, and she'd find that. And every time she found it, she'd get a reward. And then we'd take it outside. So I'd take the truffle outside and I'd put it under a bush, and then I'd hide it under some leaf litter. And eventually I'd start burying the truffle under the ground in a container, of course, otherwise I'd lose it. And so she got to hunt for truffles.
Nice.
And where we were living in the middle of the North Island, there were about 10,000 trees, oak trees, and I think they were mainly oak trees, and might have been hazels, and they were inoculated with truffles, or they were supposed to have been inoculated with truffles, and there were 10,000 trees around the area that we lived in. So we'd go practicing in the truffle trees, and then we started hunting for truffles for people. And, you know, in those 10,000 trees, we never found a truffle. Gosh, it was. And, of course, I'm thinking, my dog's useless. How can this be? How can I have such a useless dog? Anyway, we went further afield, and we went to this place, probably an hour and a half's drive from where we live. And these people had just taken over this farm, and they had some trees inoculated with truffles. And we took Sirius in there, and we said, Sirius, find the truffles. And she went to the trees and she found these beautiful, beautiful truffles. And I thought, hallelujah, my dog's not useless. There are no truffles to find in those other trees. The dog's fine. She's great. And she found these beautiful truffles in this overgrown paddock. So we said to the person who owned the truffle trees, this is great, we've got truffles here, but you need to actually weed and clear up under the trees. So, of course, they were farmers. So what did they do? They flashed. They knew under the trees, and the ground was all ploughed up with the tractor. And I came back a month later. It was like, any truffles are going to be absolutely dead and gone now because you've ripped it all up. Anyway, so we knew the dog wasn't useless, and she went to find many truffles and become an in-demand truffle dog. And in the meantime, after a couple of years, we got another little dog called Perigord. We called her Perigord after a truffle. And
as you do.
As you do, yeah. Well, her name was Zippy, and then it was Peppy, and we thought, I don't think so. So we called her Perigord. So she started finding truffles with Sirius as well. So they hunted around for 3 or 4 years in New Zealand, hunting for truffles all around the North Island.
Is that like a seasonal thing? And
yes. Truffle season is winter only. So in the southern hemisphere, it goes basically from June, July, August are the truffle months. Might be a little bit earlier or a little bit later, but pretty much the middle of winter. Okay. So it would be cold. You're hunting for truffles.
And how far did you guys sort of travel around in New Zealand? Was there like a high demand that you had to go a long distance?
Well, we did, because the North Islands, we probably travelled about 600 km from one end of the North Island to the other, various places hunting for truffles, just as it is in Australia. So we'd probably hunt for 20, 25 different growers with, varying amounts of success.
And obviously Sirius is all right in the car?
Oh, loves it. They love going in the car. Our dogs love the car. Get in the car and they're in. And when we're travelling big distances, we might be travelling for 6 hours. They love it. They just settle in, and you just stop to give them a toilet break and a drink and lunch, and then they're good to go again. They all love the car. We've got 3 dogs, so they all love travelling in the car. And
when Sirius and her partners are working, what sort of schedule would they be doing?
Usually we work for 3, 4, 5 hours. So we'd start pretty early in the morning, because early morning's better. There's little wind. It's usually, the weather's probably better in the early morning. And so the dogs, we'd give them a break. Sometimes, Sirius was a good worker. She really worked. She'd work long hours and be quite happy doing it. So she might work for an hour without a break, and that's a long time to work for a dog,
yes,
especially when they're finding a lot of truffle. She might find 5 kilos of truffle in an hour, and that's a lot of sniffing and snuffling around. And when she finds a truffle, she just scratches the ground, and then she turns her head and she looks at me and she says, "Here it is, where's my reward?" She's got real dogitude, this dog, I can tell you.
That's
and
nice.
All my are trained with food, and I know a lot of people especially working dogs, are trained with ball treats and tug toys and things like that. And the reason I use food and I use little squares of cheese is that when they're hunting for truffles, they might find a lot of truffles. And if you throw a ball or do a tug toy every time they find a truffle, they're going to be exhausted in 20 minutes. And they might have to work, up to 3 hours in a day. So a piece of cheese works much better for dogs that are finding a lot of stuff. And they know if they find truffle, they get cheese. And she won't move. So if she finds a truffle and she doesn't get her cheese, it's like, no. Just give me my cheese and I'll move on. She's very stubborn.
Nice.
Those are very smart dogs.
And do you find her using her nose excessively at home?
Oh, look, she's a lunch mechanic, this dog. She gets it. She's the smartest and naughtiest dog I know. And it's hard for a dog to be naughty because definition of naughty is that the dog actually knows what she's doing wrong and makes a deliberate choice. And Sirius does that. Look, she never forgets. She's food obsessed. And she's been known to get into horse food, bird food, dead kangaroos, goat food, chicken feed, chocolate, rat poison, and she's a bench surfer. She's been known to sit up on a bench, jump up onto a bench and sit there and just look at you and say, well, okay. So what do you do?
I usually wait until later on in the interview to ask, but I'll ask, since you've just mentioned a few things, I'll ask you to complete the sentence. I can't believe my dog ate
rat poison.
Oh, that's not good.
Twice.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And the silly thing about it was in Brisbane, and we were visiting friends, and he had a problem with rats because he had birds, and Sirius ate some rat poison. And so we went online and thought, oh, what do we do here? So we took her to the vet, and they make us sick and then give her vitamin D to counteract the rat poison. So that was okay. And it was just lucky that you actually know that she's eaten it. And because a week later, it's way too late. And then we went back to see our friend a year later, and I said to him, now, have you got rid of all that rat poison? Yeah, no problem, no rat poison around. Well, there was rat poison under a toolbox inside the front door, and Sirius found it, and she ate it again.
Oh.
So another $400 trip to the vet. The other thing we found her up on a bench was eating a packet of biscuits and 2 packets of marshmallows.
Oh, dear.
She gets into my garden and she strips the ripe tomatoes off the vine and eats them.
Okay. Not sure what the toxicity of a lot of tomatoes is.
It's not.
No.
The dog's still strong.
Mentioning the vet, apart from those couple of trips, has she had any other serious issues that she's had to go to the vet for?
Oh, look, she's getting old and she's got a lot of lumps and bumps on her. She's had pancreatitis. She's got, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Is it spondylosis or something, which is a spinal nerve?
Yep.
Yeah, spinal nerve thing. So she has, and she's got a heart murmur. So this dog is costing me at the moment probably about $10 to $12 a day on medications. But what do you do? She's a great.
You do anything and everything you can just about all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's officially retired now. So she's the supervisor dog now. But so she doesn't walk very far anymore or do much. We just let her do as much as she wants to do or doesn't want to do. So she spends a lot more time sleeping now. So as well as we moved back to Australia in 2015, and we got another dog, a Belgian Shepherd called Kath, And as I said, we'd find about 500 kilos of truffles per year in around New South Wales, mostly around the Canberra, Goulburn, Southern Highlands, Southern Tablelands area. And then we decided to do something else as well. So I trained them to hunt for narcotics. So they did that, and they did a little bit of work on film sets and houses and warehouses looking for narcotics. But it's difficult area with the government regulations and that to actually do a lot in. So then, and because the dogs are trained to hunt for smells, it's easy for them to learn to find new smells. So pretty much you can give them a sniff of something and then say, well, here it is. And they say, oh, you want me to find this now? So they do. And Sirius is really a very clever dog. She doesn't miss too much.
I think that even for even general pet dog people, it's an area where most people don't really sort of like use the dog's nose as what it's intended to do, as in playing games, getting them to sniff out things, hiding food and toys and things like that. And most dogs love doing that sort of stuff, and it exercises their mind and body. Yep.
And especially if they've got a reward, you give them a piece of cheese or something. They're clever animals. They know what they're looking for. The last thing I've taught them to hunt for is ambergris.
Sorry?
No, ambergris. Ambergris. Now, ambergris is created by sperm whales, and when only sperm whales, the sperm whales eat squid, and when they swallow the squid, they can't digest the beak. So their gut, this is simplified, produces this waxy substance that encases the squid beaks. A bit like a pearl with an oyster with a pearl.
Okay.
Yeah. And eventually the whale excretes this ball of wax with these squid beaks in it. And because it's a waxy substance, it floats. So it gets churned around in the sea for a while, and then sometimes it washes up on shore. And it's highly prized because they use it in perfume. So the very expensive perfumes probably still use ambergris. And
wow.
it is really, really expensive. I think if you found a really good kilogram block of it, you'd be looking at $60,000.
Wow, and I'm guessing you don't find them too often.
Well, you don't, and it's pretty random. And in Australia, it's illegal. You're not allowed to actually possess it, I don't think. So you can't sell it. In New Zealand, you can. So we can go hunting for it in New Zealand along the beaches, and the dogs I've managed to get hold of a couple of small pieces of ambergris, and they worked out. Took them one day to work out. Oh, this is the new smell. Thank you. We'll look for that for you. So we go to the beach, and they trot along the beach and look for ambergris as well.
Oh, nice. Do you think is there a lot of difference between looking for the truffles or do you think Sirius has any difference between in New Zealand and in New South Wales and Australia?
No, I think the truffles are pretty much the same smell. I don't think there are different types of truffle, of course, but essentially it's the same smell. The underlying odor is the same.
Okay.
So I think the difference here is the quantity that is available to find. We hunted in a truffier with 600 trees, and we found one tree with truffle under. So your dog finds one tree in 600 with truffle under. It's not a very good percentage-wise outcome, especially for the grower.
Well, I guess if it's not there, they're not there.
That's right. And, you've got to trust your dog to know what they're doing. If the truffle's there, they will find it. That's what their job is. And they know that. And they know they don't false indicate, because they know that if I can't see the truffle or smell the truffle, there's no cigar. I have to see it or smell it, and then they get a reward. And they know that, so they don't false indicate. Otherwise, you get a dog that scratched under every tree, got a reward, and then there's nothing there.
If Sirius had a preference, do you think she'd like to sniff for truffles or sniff along the beach for the, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, ambergris? Ambergris.
Good question. I think probably she knows so much about hunting for truffles that she's probably more comfortable hunting truffle. And especially as she's older, sometimes the rocky beach is a bit hard to walk on for her, and she's not as balanced on her feet probably as she used to be. So I think she's probably more comfortable hunting for truffles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but both of them are pretty much on the ground things. Like you don't find truffles up on a wardrobe or at the top of a cupboard or anything, like you might with narcotics. Whereas truffles and ambergris are both on the ground, so dogs sort of put nose down and can just shuffle along looking for whatever.
Okay. How did you find flying when you came back over to Australia? And was there any difference in coming over to Australia and then returning to New Zealand?
Yeah, there is. And our dogs have flown both ways about 3 times each, so they're old hands at it. Sirius hates being in a crate. And I tried to crate train her, failed miserably. And I'd put her food in the crate and she'd go, "Thank you very much. Now I'm ready to get out of this crate." She hates it. So she just has to suck it up when she's flying. But if you're coming from Australia to New Zealand, the dogs have to get tested for babesia and heartworm, both of which are parasitic parasites and that are not in New Zealand. So they have to get those tests. If they have either, they can't fly and have to have a retest. But usual vet checks, heart, lungs, whatever they do for vet checks, parasites, fleas, ticks, worms, all the rest of it. But if they're flying from New Zealand to Australia, there's no babesia and heartworm here, so they don't have to have those tests. They only have to have the flea, tick and worm things. Between Australia and New Zealand is far easier than any other countries, I think. And there's no quarantine, so you can put your dog into, we use jet pets, into their kennels the night before they fly. and then pick them up at the other end off the plane once they've cleared the vet check. So it's really, really quite easy. Expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Fly first class for the price it costs to send one dog.
Okay, I was going to sort of ask that. I've been thinking, I think a lot of people in Australia, if they're going for an extended holiday in New Zealand, and particularly now in COVID times, because that's probably going to open up sometime during the year, and it's looking like maybe the only place to go for people travelling with their pets. It's an option they would look at. Yeah,
well, as long as they have the heartworm and babesia tests, it's pretty easy. I think it works out to about $1,500 a dog plus vet expenses, so somewhere between $1,500 and $1,800 probably.
Okay, is that one way or two ways?
No, one way.
One way,
Exactly. And people say, oh, will you come back to Australia and truffle hunt for us next season? I'm going, well, $5,000 for 3 dogs one way, it gets pretty expensive. So, yeah. But we wouldn't have left them behind. There's no way. But Sirius is getting on now, so she's probably unlikely to make another aeroplane flight at all.
Mm-hmm. So when she was younger, I'm guessing she went on quite a few outside adventures.
Yeah, she did. We travelled a lot, especially truffle hunting, and so she, we travelled thousands of kilometres, probably about 12,000 kilometres per year, truffle hunting, because most of it, especially based in Southern Highlands, we probably travelled an average of an hour and a half to each truffier to hunt for truffles. So it's 3 hours travelling a day, 6 hours travel, 3 hours travelling a day, plus, say, 3 or 4 hours working. So that was pretty much a whole day gone. So in the season, we would work 6 out of 7 days, because one day I had to do the washing. We ran out. So we'd try and have one day off a week, but sometimes we didn't. But that's just the way it is. When the work's there, you just have to get stuck in and do it. And but we met some fabulous people and saw some great properties truffle hunting. We do miss it in Australia because it was such good fun, and we were just so busy, and everyone sort of said, are you coming back next year? Are you coming back next year? And they'd book us in a year before we actually, when you're back next year, we want you to hunt for us. Some people we hunted for twice a week, and some maybe once every 10 days or every couple of weeks or something. So we were pretty busy. She was a very popular dog.
I was going to say, and did many of those places have their own dogs?
Some of them did. What we usually found, though, was that a lot of people would say, oh, my dog's a great hunter, it knows what it's doing. And we'd go in and Sirius would go, well, hang on, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this, you missed this. And I think just doing it professionally, there is quite a difference between someone just using their pet dog. Because it's easy not to train your dog. Mm-hmm. People, you get home at night and it's 6 o'clock and you think, oh, I need to sit down, I need to have a drink, I need to have dinner, Oh, I've got to train the dog. Oh, I can't be bothered. So it's easy to miss. Whereas we try and train every day. And it might only be for 10 minutes, but we do something every day. And I think that you have to be consistent and you have to be persistent.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
No, and like you just said, 10 minutes a day isn't all that much. And if a lot more people spent at least that amount of time with their dogs and pet dogs, it'd be a lot better relationship.
I think so, because it's not about training your dog. I think it's about relating to your dog, understanding your dog, and the dog understanding what you want. Like I can say to Sirius will go back to the same place and try and get another treat. And I say to her, we've been there. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, okay. You've caught me. Okay, I'll just move on. Doesn't stop her trying, but she knows when I say, been there, move on.
What sort of other games does she like to play?
She loves to chase a ball, but she's really getting too old to chase the ball now. So just a little tiny chase, and she's really happy. She loves the ball. That's probably her favourite. She used to love swimming. She's not so keen on swimming now, but she still loves the ball, and she loves getting in the truck and going for a drive. She settles down on the seat and she slow down and she sits up and sort of says, are we there yet?
Has Sirius got what you would call any unique habits?
Well, I don't know any other dogs that strip tomato plants. I also grew some nectarines on a new tree this year. She ate them all.
Oh, okay. It's showing a bit of dexterity getting up there.
Yeah, she's pretty naughty at times. I don't know. She's just Sirius. She eats everything. I think her main she would love to be a fat dog. That's her life, to be a fat dog.
Well, I guess that's a good sort of a balance, seeing as that she's being active and working and using her nose, and then she gets to have a little bit of a naughty treat every now and then.
Yeah, she does. She broke into a lady's handbag once and found a whole block of chocolate and ate that, because I got in a panic and go, oh, chocolate, my dog's going to die. So I raced online, of course, said, how much can a 30-kilo dog eat? And it's much more than 250 grams. So it wasn't fatal.
Oh, thankfully, yep. With the chocolate, it's the darker, the worse it is.
Yeah. But you have got no idea how fast she is around food.
Well, look, she's a lab, so labs and food.
Yeah.
Not that I'm stereotyping breeds.
Well, but have you ever found a Labrador that's not food driven? Even the vets say, if your lab doesn't eat, bring it in quickly. It's fun. Yeah. She's got a few medical issues now, so. But she's been a great old dog, and she continues to be a great old dog. And boy, can she snore!
Okay, so you mentioned snoring. Where does the pack sleep?
They've got their own couch, so they sleep on their own couch. We bought a couch especially for the dogs, as you do. Got a nice bed, and so they sleep there. Or in the summer, they like to sort of stretch out on the cooler floor a bit, and they're not so fussed on warm places in the summer, but generally they sleep on their couch.
And so obviously they spend a fair bit of time inside. And what about outside? Are they got much of a yard to run around with where you are?
We've got heaps of room here. We had 350 acres in Australia, so they had heaps of room. But you know what? They don't go anywhere. They would kangaroo and they'd chase it to the tree line, which was about 150 metres away, and that was it. But they could go anywhere here, and they just don't. If we're inside, they're inside. If we're out in the garden, they're out in the garden. Where we are, our dogs are.
I can relate very much to that.
Well, they don't roam.
Virtually, which room are you in? I'll just hang around here too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're all here somewhere. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we do.
So you just mentioned the roos. Has you had much interaction with other wildlife?
The deader and smellier the kangaroo, the better for Sirius. No, she's not. She doesn't really care about other animals, so she doesn't go chasing stuff or anything like that. No, horses, goats. No, nothing. She's pretty relaxed around most animals. I know. She's scared stiff of pigs. Now, I don't know why, but if she smells a pig, the tail goes between her legs and she's saying, I'm out of here. Let me out. And she is so scared she's terrified of pigs. Now, there's no reason for that. No, none at all, but that's serious.
It's a little bit different.
It is, isn't it?
I was going to say, you mentioned pigs, and it didn't come to my mind before, but I've definitely heard of people training pigs to search out truffles as well.
Yeah. They used to use pigs in France and Italy. The problem with using pigs is that pigs really love truffles.
Yeah, I remember hearing that too.
Right, to get to the truffle before the pig ate it. And I think in the old days, many a truffle hunter with his pig had lost fingers to the pig getting the fingers and the truffle. So, and, pigs aren't a good look in the truck travelling around anyway.
Nice.
How do you go stay in a motel and say, look, I want to bring my pig with me? It's hard trying to get them to accept dogs sometimes, but pigs, no.
Grooming-wise, how is she? Enjoy bath time and stuff like that?
She doesn't mind. She loves being brushed. She just loves getting brushed. And you know what? When I blow dry my hair, she loves getting blow dried. She comes me to blow dry her back and her tummy. The other dogs hate it, but she loves it. Yeah, Labs are pretty easy care dogs. They need a little bit of brushing because they've got the double coat, but they're pretty easy care. And she doesn't mind time.
Very nice. So she's enjoying retirement, or you think that she's, got that yearning to get out still all the time?
Well, I kind of think she's a bit like Mick Jagger, the aging rock star.
Mm-hmm.
She's like that. She keeps coming back for another gig. Because if she knows that the other girls are hunting and they're getting rewarded for finding stuff, she wants to be there. She hates missing out because she knows there's food involved. She just wants to be hunting and in the action. So we try and give her a little turn for a while, at least, so she has a bit of a chance. But I don't know that she'll be doing too much hunting this year, but we'll wait and see. See how she goes.
Yeah, as the current sort of world situation with COVID, will that affect much of what you guys do this year?
We were a bit lucky last year because the the lockdown period sort of ended just before the truffle season started, because we started truffle hunting in end of May, beginning of June, and the lockdown period was pretty much over by then, so we could actually travel and hunt for truffles. If they locked the country down again over that winter period, I guess we would have problems travelling. There's probably not a lot of options for people to harvest their truffles. It's like all the farmers. They're all having the same problem at this time. They can't get enough people to pick their fruit or look after their orchards or anything. So, and I think it would be the same for truffle hunting as well.
Yeah, we've got a very similar problem here where they're saying that exact thing, where the backpackers and people aren't here to do that.
No, they're not. And I think we're going to notice that things, fruit and veggies and stuff, are going to get very, very expensive.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't
with
say,
no
but
one
there
to pick them.
were quite a lot of other people that aren't working through, the cause of COVID, but I don't know, maybe the different governments should see about making things easier for those people to possibly help out in this sort of instance.
Yeah, I don't have any answers to it. There's always reasons why people can't travel. It might be that they have to drive 3 hours to go and find a fruit picking job, and then they've got to get accommodation and all the rest of it. So, I think the it's harder than it appears, but time will tell. But I think we're going to all be paying a lot more for some of our produce. And I know in New Zealand here at the moment, they've got containers stacked up on wharves and they just can't clear them out fast enough. And so the shelves are empty of a lot of goods, and the ships are travelling around trying to drop stuff off in all sorts of places. So I don't know. It's all changed a bit, hasn't it, Rob?
Yes, the world is let's move on.
Yeah.
I suppose I have to ask, with all the sniffing that Sirius was doing, did you do anything different in regard to, say, nose care for her or anything like that?
No. I think probably the only thing we probably did was to give her a rest. So, she might work for half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then you'd put another dog on for 20 minutes, half an hour. So it's just resting them up a bit. And after 3 hours of working, they'd be pretty tired.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd just sleep the rest of the day quite happily. Because I think probably if they're sniffing for 3 hours, truffle hunting or hunting for anything, I reckon it'd be like doing back-to-back exams in the classroom, like mentally absolutely exhausting. Because that's pretty much what it is. The nose is attached to the brain, and it's really tiring for them to do that work.
Absolutely, and that
Yeah.
concentration.
Yeah. But they've got such a keen sense of smell. They can sniff out anything. They're teaching dogs to hunt for, to look for COVIDs, for cancer, for all sorts of diseases. What was it I was reading about the other day? Can't remember now. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, American foul brood disease in bees. All sorts of things that you'd never ever think of, but the dog still has a better nose than any mechanical or electronic device.
Absolutely. And I think we're only getting to utilise that more and more and getting to work in partnership with them, because it's I think a booming area, using canines for all that sort of stuff. I saw a clip on Facebook not that long ago where they, and I can't remember what the scent was, but they put it in a tin and they threw it in a lake, and then they crisscrossed the lake in a boat with a dog on the boat, and got the dog to basically indicate where that scent tin, and this was several meters into the water. I can't remember how many meters down, but it also went into the silt and the mud underneath in the water, and the dog got it spot on.
I think I saw that, and it was a cadaver dog.
Yeah, actually, I think it was. Yep.
And it was in Scotland, I think, because I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh, how clever is that? Yep. You know, how amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So they're pretty clever. But I guess for me, training dogs to hunt for things is quite easy. You need a dog with a pointy-end nose. Like I'd never choose a French bulldog or a bulldog or a boxer or any of those squashy-faced dogs to hunt for scents. And you need a dog that's willing to work. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. And then you've just got to bond with your dog and know what your dog's doing. And when it's telling you something, when it's not telling you something, you've got to know when your dog's looking for a truffle, or, hey, there's the smell of a rabbit there and I'm looking at that, or a fox smell. And you get to know that your dog's actually on the job or not on the job. And that's what my job is, watch my dog. That's it.
It sounds like Sirius was sort of found her niche in going for the truffles.
Yeah, she has been an amazing truffle dog. You know, she can hunt for narcotics, she can hunt for ambergris, and it's just for her, it's just another smell. It's like, oh, you want me to look for this smell now? Okay, I can do that, and she does. Because when we're training, I interchange the scents for them. So some days we'll say look for methamphetamine, the next day we'll look for ambergris, then we'll look for truffle, and I don't tell them, I don't give them a hint of what we're looking for. I just say to them, find. And then it's up to them to go and find it. And they always find it. Doesn't matter what the smell is. If it's a smell that they've been trained to find, they'll find a smell. That is there. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Absolutely.
She's been a very talkative dog. She always lets you know what she wants in no uncertain terms. Like, I want to go out, let me out. So she'll stand at the door and she'll go, woof, let me out. Or woof, let me in. Or I'm in the garden, woof, and I don't want to jump down on my own, so woof, come and lift me out of the garden after I've stripped all the tomatoes for you. I actually have a video of her stripping off tomatoes. Funny old dog. But no, she's been a wonderful, wonderful dog, and they're smart dogs, Labradors, and I don't think they're the easiest dogs to train because she's a thinking dog, and you can actually see when you're watching her, you can see her thinking about what she's doing, and she'll be walking along a row of trees, and she'll go, hang on, and she'll go back. Say, I know there's something here that I've missed there, so I'm going to go back for that. And you can see her thinking about what she's doing. I think she thinks more than the other dogs do.
Well, thank you very, very much for sharing all about the life of Sirius and for educating me about finding truffles and the other ambiguous.
You're going to go find and look that up now, aren't you?
I am.
as there's anyone who's going to listen to this podcast, they're all going to say, ambergris. What is ambergris? Let me go and look that up.
It's something to do with whales, with sperm whales.
Only sperm whales. Yeah. So, yeah. No, it's been great, and I hope everyone's enjoyed listening about Sirius and the other dogs, of course, and what we do. There's not too many of us looking for truffles around the place, but there's a few.
I'm sure they have. Do you want to give out any of your work details for the rest of the pack that are still doing the truffle hunting?
As in what, website address?
Yeah, feel free to do that. We'll give that a plug.
Oh, we're at truffledogs.nz. That's our website address. It's a nice, easy one to remember.
Certainly is. So,
Yep, carry on.
I was going to say again, thank you very much, and look forward to catching up in the future.
Thank you, Rob. It's been a real pleasure.
I hope that you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to make any suggestions or get in contact or anything like that, why not check out our Facebook group at the Relaxed Dog Podcast Facebook group. We'd be happy to have you there. Until next week, stay safe and remember, your dog is family.